epistle today begins with a message that every person in my profession dreads to hear. Every priest, it says, stand before the people day after day, offering again and again the same sacrifices that can never take away sins. It's disheartening if you're like me and you want to believe that what you're doing up here day after day actually does some good in the world. But the truth is that this is a really good passage to remind us that it is God who does this work. It is not us, it's not the priest, it's not any of us, but it is the power working within us that is infinitely stronger and can do infinitely more than we can ask or imagine. It is God who makes these things happen, and it is because of Jesus Christ and the offering that Jesus has made that our hearts, as it says, have been sprinkled clean and our lives and bodies washed pure. It's a great passage for a day of baptism. We're going to have a baptism at 10 o'clock. What an image that our hearts and our bodies are cleansed by Jesus. And because of this, not because of anything in particular that we have or anything else that we can do, we're confident. We can be confident in our plans in life, that things may not turn out as we want, but things generally turn out so we get what we need. We can be confident in all the things of our life, that we will face hard times, we will face problems, but that there is an overarching pattern directed by a God of love. We can have confidence in our days, that there are times when the days are difficult and challenging and horrible, but that there is always going to be a better tomorrow. For the suffering of the present moment is nothing compared to the God that is to come. We live our lives in hope. Hold fast to your hope because of God. And as it says in the epistle today, this is a new and living way. I love that. It's a new and living way, this faith that we have. I don't know if you think about the new and living way in your life. I don't know if you think about your faith as a new and living way. For many of us, we just assume our faith is the old and tired way. It's the tried and true way. It's the way we've always lived. It's the thing we've always done. It's what I was brought up on. And it's not necessarily in our understanding to see it as something new. But think about things that are new. I remember when the internet was new. I lived, kids, before the internet existed, as did many of you. And I was a student in seminary when the first time ever I could go on the World Wide Web, and instead of trudging all the way from my nice apartment down to the library to research something about the gospel, I could look it up online in my pajamas. It was amazing. And then, little by little, we get used to it, we start living with it, we become accustomed to it. And so I was thinking about the internet this past week as I was watching news of the fires in California. Just very interested, in part because my son lives in Northern California and there's a lot of smoke, there's no fire near him, but we lived in Los Angeles. I want to know what's going on. And so I kind of immersed myself in this horrible news, but then it began to occur to me the downside of having so much news, of having access to so much. It's only really been within the last, 100 years that people have known of what's going on in large parts of the world, far away from where we live. And it's really only been since the internet that we've been able to see it in every corner of the world and see what's going on. And now, unfortunately, we are bombarded with this sad news of how life really is for so many people. I know immediately if there's been a school shooting somewhere. I can find out quickly if there's been gun violence, as there was, again, this week in Springfield. I can tell immediately about these fires or about famines. I know what's going on with the war in Yemen. I know that the Taliban is on the rise in the Middle East, and in a profound way, sometimes I wish I didn't, because it paints this picture in our lives to see all of this news. And it leads us sometimes to believe that things are just getting really, really bad. My wife's family live in Lawrence, Massachusetts, and a few of them go to a church which is of a different denomination. And one of the places where I see the difference between our faith and what we preach and their faith what they believe is in how they interpret the events of the world. And in how they interpret, in particular, this gospel we have today. For this is a very, very specific passage, this gospel from Mark 13. It's often referred to as the little apocalypse, because it's a story, it's this kind of a self-contained passage where Jesus is talking about the end of time. He's talking about the apocalypse, beginning with the disciples talking about the huge temple, and then Jesus saying, all this will be destroyed, and you're going to see how the end of time comes based on all of these things. Wars and fire and earthquake. And from time to time, my wife's family, where they attend, the pastor will tell the people, look at what's going on. It's the end of time. Whenever there's a major crisis, he will say, it's the end of times. We're seeing the signs of the apocalypse everywhere. The fires, the earthquakes, the hurricanes, and the war. And he talks about how angry God is. And the fact that God is ready to come back. And I don't know really how to assess this message. Because he gives it in the pulpit, and on one level it seems like he's happy or content to give this message, because it reinforces his notion that God is angry and that we deserve punishment, that we are sinful and there's no way to get beyond that, and it's as if he's happy to see that finally coming in his lifetime. And so my wife's family will talk with her, and then my wife will come to me, and she'll say, is it really true that the God is angry and that these are the end of time because of the fires and wars and famines and droughts and floods? And I will say, honey, there have always been fires and famines and wars and droughts and floods. It's just now we know about it because we have the internet. And we can see it anywhere in the world. And so it makes me think, what then is our response as Christians to the horrible and difficult things that are coming? Is the world ending, or is there a different way of looking at it? Is God angry with us, or is there another alternative impression that we can have? Because I think we don't want to simply close our doors out of fear, because we eliminate the possibility of going out of our doors to make things better. And we don't want to close our hearts, because we want them to be open to the possibility of hope. Our challenge here is to kindle hope, not to destroy it. Our challenge is to baptize children for the future. That's what we do. And so it can be hard to keep in mind the message of hope. I remember an experience a few years ago. I think at this point, I don't know how many, but it was I was in the church in Chelsea, and there was an earthquake in Haiti. And to its credit, the church, they really stepped up. They offered money, they gathered things to send to the people in Haiti, but then a short time after the earthquake, there was a hurricane in the Caribbean. And because it was hurricane season, there was another hurricane shortly after that. And so then we were collecting things for Haiti and for these two places in the Caribbean, and then somewhere in our town, there was a house fire. And the family who lived there had totally lost all of their things, and so we were trying to collect things for that as well. So people were saying, how many things can we support? How much more can we do? We've had this hurricane, and we've got the earthquake, and what we found was that each of these things on its own, we could have easily responded to and gotten behind and really helped with generosity and care, but taken all together, it was just too much. People began to get like a compassion fatigue, have some fatigue about what they could do. And it was as if they had reached their limit. And it wasn't a limit of their finances, because they could have given more. And it wasn't a limit of their energy, because they still had some energy, but it was as if it was a limit of that cheery disposition and positive worldview that we Christians usually have. It was like it was a limit of their hope. They had reached limit of their hope. So we pulled out our Bibles, and we did a Bible study to see what the Gospels say about hope in the midst of despair. The passage we focused on was the passage for today, from Mark. This little apocalypse. Because it begins with the apocalypse. It begins with devastation. It begins with destruction. But it ends with hope. Because Jesus says, these things that you see, they're the birth pangs. which means something good is coming. So you can focus on the death, or you can focus on that which is to come. Jesus invites us to see this isn't the end. These aren't the end times. Nothing's going to be wiped away. Humanity isn't going to be destroyed yet. But I read this as something incredibly hopeful. Because he says, look, something new will be born. From what I understand about birth pains, I hear that they are very painful and scary, but a temporary condition which will lead to an even more glorious end, which is the new and living way that Jesus has prepared for us. I've never been one to give birth, but I do know that I can play a role in that. And I think we can play a role in the process, not just to sit back, but to roll up our sleeves, to boil some water, to tear up some sheets, and we can be midwives to that which is to come. We are in Spanish, parteras, which is such a great word for midwives. We are the helpers. We are the instruments that Jesus chooses to bring this new world into being. So when we see it, we do not have to close ourselves off to the fear, because there's always something we can do. Do we have a midwife who can help the world in its pain? Do we have a midwife here who can gently show others that there is good news and the possibility of making a world better? Is there someone here who can teach the children, including the young child that we're going to baptize today, someone to teach them that there is a loving God who cares for them and who can give them even more than they can possibly imagine? Is there a hand that we can reach out to the expectant and the anxious and the weary and the lost and give them a cup of water to drink or wipe the sweat from their brow as they wait for that which is to come? Because we will continue to watch the news. We will continue to hear of stories of tragedy and struggle. We will not shut ourselves off. We just can't. This new thing is here. And we will see that God is doing a lot in the world, that there's a lot happening every day. But our response does not have to be to say, this is the end. Our response can be to say, this is something new. What's my part? How can I help give birth to this new thing?